Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to Wednesday, April 22nd. We're ready to begin our next chapter book. I've chosen The Storm, written by Cynthia Rylant. This book was first published in 2002. It's part of one of her series called the Lighthouse family series. She's also written another series called the Cobble Street Cousins, in addition to several chapter books and picture books. Some of her books that you might recognize the names of are Missing May, When the Relatives Came. Let's begin The Storm. We begin with chapter 1. The title is Pandora. In a lonely lighthouse, far from city and town, far from the comfort of friends, lived a kind-hearted cat named Pandora. She had been living in this lighthouse all alone for 4 long years, and it was beginning to wear on her. She found herself sighing long, deep, lonely sighs. She sat on the rocks overlooking the waves far too long. Sometimes her nose got a sunburn, and at night, when she tried to read by the lantern light, her mind wandered, and she would think for hours on her childhood, when she had friends and company. Why did Pandora accept this lonely lighthouse life? Because a lighthouse had once saved her. When Pandora was but a kitten, she and her father had gone sailing aboard a grand schooner, bound for a new country. Pandora's mother had stayed behind with the baby to join them later. And while they were at sea, Pandora and her father were shaken from their beds one night by an awful twisting of the ship's great bow. "Stay here, Pandora," her father had commanded. "Stay here and wait until I come for you." They were in a terrible storm. The wind was howling and the waves crashed hard upon them. Worse, a deep fog had spread itself all over the water, and it is fog that will bring a ship to its end. Fog that will blind a sailor's eye until his ship has hit the jagged shore and torn itself to pieces. Pandora's father knew this as he strained with the others to keep the ship's sails aloft, and his daughter trembled in her bed. He knew what somber danger they were in, but Pandora's father was a brave cat, and he would not give up hope. He would hold tight to the riggings with the others until help, in whatever form that might come to them. Here's a picture of Pandora in her bed waiting. In time, the winds began to settle, and the waves grew smaller, but the dense fog refused to lift. The ship's captain was clearly worried, for he knew these waters they sailed in. He knew the long history of ships that had gone down, and he carried little hope that help might come to them, that someone might lead them away from this deadly storm. For only a lighthouse might show them the way, and there had been no working light on these waters for 100 years. So it was with much bewilderment and amazement and overwhelming joy that he heard first the deep, clear sound of a foghorn, and then he saw before him a light. Yes, a light, and it was not the light of another ship or small boat. Only a very powerful lamp could make itself seen through fog like this. Only the lamp of a lighthouse. "Pull leeward," cried the captain. "Away from the light." And everyone pulled hard on the riggings to make the ship turn away from the dangerous shoreline. The ships and everyone on it were saved. Even after, Pandora dreamed of lighthouses. Though she had not seen the beacon that had saved her, her father had, and he told her stories of it often. He always wondered who had made the great light shine. As she grew, Pandora herself came to think much on this. She went to the library and gathered books on lighthouses. She drew them in her sketchpad. She dreamed of them at night. Then one morning, she awoke and she knew what she must do. She must become a lighthouse keeper. She knew it was her destiny. It did not take Pandora long to find a lighthouse in need of keeping. It is a hard and lonely job, and few want it. Lighthouses are often built in unwelcoming places, atop sharp and dangerous rocks. A winter storm can hold a keeper inside for weeks on end, and when she finally emerges, there's no one to talk to. They are all someplace else, living in little towns or big cities. They are not interested in desolation. But Pandora was not afraid of this life, for her heart was so good and clear that fear would not creep inside it. The ships in those unpredictable waters carried fathers and mothers and children who needed guiding. She knew she could do it, and Pandora had been doing it faithfully for 4 long years. She had seen many an awful storm come and go. She had stayed awake long winter nights, tending the great lamp, sounding the deep horn. Pandora did not know how many lives she had saved, but she knew that she had saved some. And now, weary with being alone for so long, Pandora was about to save one more. Chapter 2, Sebold. There are those who love the sea so deeply they cannot bear to be away from it even for a day. A dog named Sebold was one of these. He was born to a sailor's life. When Sebold was old enough to leave home and family, he built himself a boat, which he named Adventure. He said goodbye to his parents and sisters, and off he went in search of the life meant just for him. He was a fine sailor. He had a keen understanding of the wind. He could read the stars, and he trusted his instincts. For 5 years, Sebold sailed the world's greatest oceans, and his instincts never failed him. He sailed safe and strong and free of worry. But one day, this all changed. Sebold had always known when a storm was coming. His nose told him so, and he'd always found a sheltered cove or a harbor in which to wait out the rough seas. But this day, he had a cold. He had a cold and a stuffy nose, and his sense of smell was very bad. Added to this, he felt very tired. Sebold took a long nap in his bunk, and he did not notice the seabirds that were nervously circling in the air above him, agitated and calling to one another about the bad weather that was on its way. The seabirds all wisely headed for land, but Sebold, who was adrift in his dreams, stayed out on the open water. Then the great storm hit. Sebold was jolted from sleep by a sharp crack of lightning, a deep roar of thunder, and an enormous crashing wave. As Adventure was flung here and there, up and down, Sebold clung to the little boat with all his strength, for there was nothing else that he could do. The sea, which had always been his friend, had turned against him, and for the first time in his sailor's life, Sebold was afraid. He whispered into the wind, "Safe harbor, let there be safe harbor, please." Just as Sebold whispered these words, a magnificent light broke through the darkness, and the long-distant call of a horn sounded across the water. "Safe harbor," Sebold repeated, and this was the last thing that brave Sebold said before he was lifted and rolled over and over into the deep black sea. One might have thought the dog was forever lost, but this is not the end of Sebold's story. And that is the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3 is called Comfort. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see everyone tomorrow for more of The Storm. Goodbye for now, everybody.